Right then, as promised, again, the Bombarder float video. I apologise, I was meant to do it yesterday or the day before. I've been moving house, so I've been a little bit busy. And of course I've been fishing as well, so it sort of takes priority over talking to a camera in my kitchen. Not too used to this. I am going to be doing a lot more of it, so just bear with me with the filming and the voice to camera. So yeah, what I've done is I've made a scaled down version of the Bombarder rig that I use, so I can get it in shot without having a large surplus of line everywhere. I'll show you the basic rig first, or the way I do it, and then I'll show you the other things that you can pull behind it. So really simple. I just lock my lead in on some fluorocarbon. Not my lead, sorry, my float. I have a swivel either side and a bead to protect the knots. This float, my rod is a 28 gram cast weight max. So this is if you notice the F there, that's a floating. You do get slow sinking ones as well. So this is 20 gram. And that gives me about sort of 8 grams to play with before overloading my rod with the lure. But as you'll see in a second, 8 grams is, none of what I'm using is coming close to 8 grams. So from the top, I've got a swivel, a bead, the float, the bead, and another swivel. And that's just locked in. I believe you can have them sliding. Personally, I don't see the point. The purpose of these Bombarder floats is to be able to throw something this big, or this small, and this light a good distance without using traditional fly gear. I do use traditional fly gear, but it's always nice to have options, and not everybody has traditional fly gear. And also, I'm definitely able to throw this a lot further than I would be able to with a fly rod. So yeah, you've gone down there, and then really simple. You've gone down from your bottom swivel down to your lure. So this is what I was catching on the other day. This is rather big to be using with a Bombarder, but still pretty light. I won't be getting much distance with that with a lure rod on its own. That's a Redgill. Got a few other types of Redgills here. These really small ones. They're perfect to pull behind it. And then it comes to the flies. So you've got the softies, the fulling mill softies that look like little bait fish. They're quite heavy, to be fair, for what they are. And then there's just a selection of flies. You can use longer sand eel flies. I don't actually have any, not with me anyway. They're all in the box in the car. But once this one's wet, this one is very much looks like a sand eel. So I know a lot of people use this Bombarder method for sea trout. I've been having a lot of fun with it with bass. It was something I originally used to try and pick out sea trout whilst I was out lure fishing for bass. You see them jumping left, right, and centre, don't you? But lo and behold, I still couldn't find a sea trout. I just kept catching more bass on it. There's worse problems to have, but it is a really, really nice method of fishing. I can imagine it would work really well for garfish and stuff like that as well. Anything that sort of needs a slightly more delicate approach. So yeah, there really is not much more to it. One point to note, the long tube points up towards your main line. Doesn't really state that anywhere on there, but yeah, it's just a little handy point to note. The length of your snood that goes from your float down to your lure, whichever lure it is, whether it's a fly or soft plastic, that's down to you really. Just keep in mind it needs to be long enough for you to cast it. So you don't want to have you don't want to have 12 foot, especially if you're off the shore. You don't want to have 12 foot of trace like you might do if you were drifting a wreck with a Redgill or something like that. So I tend to sort of go 3 or 4 foot. and that's proved, you know, more than adequate. It's what another thing I like about these. When I first started using these, I noticed that as the float sort of pulls across the surface, it creates a nice sort of V-shaped how a surface lure would. So that gets a fair bit of attention from the fish, and then close behind it is a little lure. So, you know, as a system, it works really well, and I think the more people start using them, the more they'll realise that it's a lot of fun on very, very basic tackle. So a lot of these flies, I got these from Foxton's. If you go down to Foxton's, you'll notice that the Redgills are actually, there's a Redgill bin there, so you can buy them loose, you don't have to buy them in a pack. And it's all different types of colours, different types of sizes, from, you know, these tiny ones to the much bigger ones that you'd use on wrecks and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of like a little Redgill pick and mix. They do have the sinking versions of the floats in. So, you know, for a couple of quid, you can go down there and get plenty of enough gear to start catching fish using a Bombarder float. If there's anything that you do, you know, if you've got any questions on things that I haven't touched on, you're more than welcome to drop me a message or speak to Nick at Foxton's. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything on bombarders. As I said, really easy method, and I'll see you next time.